This chart is crazy. Canada's economy is more reliant on real estate than Saudi Arabia is reliant on oil. 30% of Canada's GDP is dependent on real estate. For anyone who is wondering how much is the reliance of oil, for Saudi Arabia, it's 22%. So we are very, very reliant on real estate, heavily reliant on one industry. It's not just about real estate, but it's heavily being reliant on one industry. Let's break down these numbers of how this 30%, actually comes to light. So 7% is real estate construction, which I felt was low. I would have thought that it should have been high. In fact, it should be high because there's less construction happening. But yeah, 7% is real estate construction, 12% is real estate, and I'm reading through my notes here. 12% is real estate, rental, leasing services. Here, the realtors' commissions, everything, comes in under this umbrella. So that's 12%. That makes almost 20% construction plus, these services. And then you have 11% coming from mortgage lending, legal services, furniture, renos, municipal taxes, because that's, a pretty significant portion. And all that amounts to 11%. So 7 plus 12 plus 11, around about there, that makes 30% of the GDP, and it's all real estate. Now, if I compare this with other countries, and I'm still, again, reading from the notes, US is 20%, Germany is 18%, UK is 20%, Japan is 16%, and the only other country that comes close is Australia, which is 25 to 27%. And it's not just about the GDP. Canadian households are heavily in debt to their mortgages. The average debt to income ratio in Canada is 1.8, which basically means that for every $1 that the Canadian household is earning, they owe $1.8. And a large amount of this is mortgage debt. In GTA, 40% of homeowners own more than one property. For many, it's not just their shelter, but it's also their retirement plan. And this is problematic. We all saw what happened when interest rates went up. People were scrambling to make their payments. The delinquency, even though it's still low at 0.2%, but it still increased by 25 to 30%. And when there is a boom, people refinance to take out money not to buy assets, but to buy cars, do renos, go on vacations, and all this spending slows down the economy even further, and all because real estate prices start to go down. 1 in 12 jobs in Canada are connected to real estate. So when the economy is bad, these construction jobs go away. Not just that, the very reason why real estate is expensive in Canada actually becomes worse because builders are not able to build homes because people who are so reliant on real estate, not just from their jobs point of view, but also from their spending point of view, or, like cash flow, from the investment properties at these 40% homeowners that have more than one homes in Canada. All this actually hurts the builders, and they are not able to build because there are not enough buyers. And all of this causes the GDP to hurt even further. So is Canada a sinking ship if real estate crashes? Here are the facts. It won't break the country immediately, but it will slow it down more than some of the other countries who are not as reliant on real estate. Here are the things that happen when real estate falls. Lending becomes tougher because banks resort to more due diligence on every deal that crosses their desk. We already talked about people going out of job because 1 in 12 jobs are connected to real estate, so they start to vanish. We also talked about how refinances fund spending, and the consumer spending actually goes down when real estate goes down. And most importantly, cities start to go broke because for development, a lot of cities rely on property taxes, and if the real estate values go down, the tax collection actually reduces. Not just that, if people are not buying homes, there's less collection of land transfer tax that happens on every single purchase. So whenever there's a decline in the number of homes that are being sold, it impacts the federal, provincial, and the municipal tax collection. This is one of the prime reasons why the government is doing nothing about the increasing real estate prices. Apart from the tax collection, I'll give you 2 more reasons why the government wants the real estate prices to stay afloat. The first one is politicians need the homeowners to stay happy because 70% of Canadians are homeowners and they make most of the vote bank. 7 in 10 Canadians retiring in the next 5 years have less than $100,000 in retirement savings. And if their homes which they are relying on for retirement go down in value, they'll not be happy, which is one of the major reasons why liberals won over conservatives in this election. And the second reason is Canada's growth model is dependent on real estate plus population growth. Canada is still bringing over 300,000 immigrants every single year to Canada, but instead of integrating them into a productive economy, they want them to buy homes. The engine is simple. More immigration leads to more housing demand, leads to higher prices, which drives the economic growth because it is dependent 30% on real estate, and that leads to more taxes. Regardless of what politicians say on both sides, liberals and conservatives, real estate has become a growth engine for GDP of Canada. It helps them collect more taxes and it helps them win more votes. And all this without fixing the real problems of Canada, which is productivity and lack of innovation. Until this model changes, the system has no real reason to change itself. So should we even buy a home in Canada? Or should we even live in Canada? I think we need to disconnect these things. I think most people just club these two things and say that because homes are expensive, because I'm not able to buy a home, therefore I don't want to live in Canada. And that might be true, but we need to think of our priorities. Did we come to Canada to buy a home, or did we come to Canada for a better quality of life? Because if it was the later, then just thinking about the home, and it's completely honestly, I'm saying that being in the industry, honestly, it's okay if you never buy a home, just double down on investing into the stock market. And if that's, something that you can do, I think you can live a very full life and you can achieve your goals that you came to Canada with. But if you're someone who is buying a home, just know that you're buying to live in it. You should buy a home for a minimum of 5 to 7 years, not, lower than that. 2-3 years, you want to upgrade it to a forever home. Don't do that, right? Buy a home, and if you're buying it for 5 to 7 years, you will be okay with 3 to 4% appreciation. You will be able to upgrade into a forever home. I made this exact video last week. I'll link that in the description. You need to also think of how you lock in your interest rate very smartly, and we help our clients do that. Sometimes variable makes sense, sometimes fixed makes sense. For most people right now, a 3-year fixed, is making a lot of sense because it's under 4%. Make lump sum payments to your mortgage because you have to be mortgage free early. All my clients have a plan of being mortgage free 5 to 10 years early because that saves hundreds and thousands of dollars of interest. And not only that, when you retire on a mortgage free home, you are able to retire well and early. Plus your expenses at a time when you do not have any active income at retirement are bare minimum. And at the same time, for most people, I would say this, investment property is not everyone's cup of tea. You should not buy an investment property. In fact, you should diversify after buying your first home into other assets first, like buy into the stock market, buy ETFs, buy stocks, read about that, learn about that, join Blossom, a community of 300,000 plus people who are all talking about the stock market. Buy gold, Bitcoin. Real estate is not just the only thing that you can invest in. It's not the only asset class. Just because 30% of Canada's GDP, is dependent on real estate, you don't have to buy it. The home that you are buying is your primary home, and if it never generate cash flow when you retire, it will just reduce your expenses to as little as possible because it's mortgage free and you don't have to pay a rent. And at the same time, if you invest into equities, that will be the income generating asset that funds your expenses at the time of retirement. That's how we need to disconnect our investing from our primary home. I hope you like this video. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय बाय.